Okay, so picture this. You're in the middle of a super tight multi-product campaign. Everything's running like clockwork, and then an auditor walks in, points to a piece of equipment, and asks the one question that can bring everything to a screeching halt. That question, it just hangs in the air, doesn't it? And if your only answer is something like, because we've always done it this way, or, well, we ran a cleaning cycle, you are in serious trouble. We're talking about a potential shutdown right then and there. Because let's be real, a flimsy answer can lead straight to an FDA 483 or a major non-compliance finding from the EMA. And these aren't just little slaps on the wrist. They can totally jeopardize your product, your facility, and your company's reputation. So how do you build a justification that's scientifically sound and completely audit-proof? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. This entire challenge, really, it boils down to a core conflict that every single facility faces. That constant balancing act between keeping things efficient and ensuring absolute patient safety. Now, here's something that's absolutely crucial to understand. The entire regulatory landscape has shifted. Both the FDA and the EMA have moved on from the old days of simple, kind of arbitrary limits, like saying everything must be below 10 parts per million. The new way, the modern approach, is all about quality risk management, and it's guided by the principles of ICH 29. It's not about one magic number anymore. It's about a complete, holistic risk assessment. And the trade-offs here are pretty significant. A dedicated facility where you only make one thing, it's inherently safer from cross-contamination, for sure. But it's way more expensive and totally inflexible. The biggest worries you have there are things like product degradation or microbial buildup. On the flip side, a multi-product facility is super economical and flexible, but the risks? They're way more complex. You are constantly fighting the specter of cross-contamination and chemical residues. So how do you navigate all this complexity and actually make a defensible choice? Well, the good news is regulators have given us a clear framework. It's not some big secret. It's a structured risk assessment based on what I like to call the 3 pillars of potency. These are the 3 non-negotiable areas you absolutely have to evaluate. First, the toxicology of the compounds themselves. How potent are they? Second, their physical properties, specifically how well they dissolve. And third, the nuts and bolts, the actual physical design of the equipment you're using. If you get these 3 right, you are on solid ground. So let's dive into the first and honestly, the most critical pillar, toxicological data. And here, everything hinges on the permitted daily exposure, or PDE. This is not just a suggestion. It is the gold standard for both the FDA and the EMA. It's a scientifically calculated value that tells you the absolute maximum amount of a previous product a patient could be exposed to in the next product every single day for their whole life without any health risk. It's a huge deal. Okay, so calculating the PDE is one thing, but here is the million-dollar question you have to turn around and ask your quality control lab: is the cleaning limit you calculated based on that PDE actually detectable by your methods? Can your swabs and your HPLC literally find it if it's there? And this is where we find a really bright, clear line in the regulations. If the answer to that question is no, if your PTED is so incredibly low that it falls below the detection limit of your lab's instruments, then the debate is over. You must use dedicated equipment. There's no gray area, no other compliant option. End of story. All right, so what if you can detect the PDE? Great, but you're not done. Now you have to really dig into the other 2 pillars. For solubility, you've got to ask yourself, if you're dealing with a sticky, gummy, water-insoluble API, can your standard cleaning agent even hope to remove it effectively? And for equipment design, you need to look at your machinery with a critical eye. Are there dead legs in the pipework, complex seals, or little valves where product can get trapped? Remember, every single one of those hard-to-clean spots is a potential cross-contamination time bomb. Okay, now that we've got the compliance framework down, let's talk strategy. For those of you managing busy, multi-product facilities, there's a really sophisticated, regulator-accepted approach to make this whole process much more efficient, without ever sacrificing safety. It's called bracketing. So instead of validating your cleaning process for every single product-to-product changeover, which would be just insanely time-consuming, bracketing lets you be a lot smarter. You identify the single most difficult to clean or highest-risk product, your worst-case monster, if you will, and you validate a cleaning process that can defeat it. If you prove you can clean that, you've scientifically justified that the process is more than good enough for all the easier products in that group. So how do you find your monster? Well, you go on a hunt. You look for the product with a combination of these challenging characteristics. The lowest solubility, which makes it the hardest to wash away. The highest potency, which gives it the lowest, most stringent PDE limit. And the maximum therapeutic dose. The product that ticks these boxes, that's your worst-case challenger. We've covered the core conflict, the three-pillar framework, and the expert strategy of bracketing. Now I want to leave you with one final, absolutely authoritative piece of guidance, a compliance golden nugget that comes directly from the regulators themselves. As the European Union's GMP Annex 15 makes perfectly clear, it all comes down to this. After all of your risk assessments, all your calculations, and all your validations, if you determine that the risk of cross-contamination simply cannot be controlled by a validated cleaning process, then the decision is made for you. You need dedicated facilities. It is the ultimate safety net for the patient. You see, the choice between dedicated and multi-product facilities, it isn't just an operational one. It's a deep commitment to patient safety, guided by rigorous science. So I'll leave you with this to think about. As you look at your own product matrix, are you absolutely confident you've correctly identified your facility's true worst-case product?